11 years ago, 2001, my son Kobe and his friend Joseph Ishran, they went to hike in the canyon near our home, and they were met by Palestinian terrorists who beat them to death with rocks. Kobe was 13. He was only in 8th grade. And really, when he was murdered, I really thought, I thought our lives were over. I thought my life was over. I thought there was no way I would be able to live. And I fell to the ground and I looked at my husband and I said, "What are we going to do?" And he said, we have three other children, and we're not going to let the terrorists destroy us. So since then, our life really has been a quest to take the pain and transform it into good, and to take all the cruelty of Kobe and Yosef's murder and transform it into kindness. And we were blessed really to be able to do this because we have the support of a community. And during the first year, we had people in our home almost all the time. And we had people who stayed with us. And a very good friend of mine is a grief counselor. So she was with us, and she just stayed with us and gave us support. And my husband was very active. He was speaking and he was out of the house, but women and men grieve differently. And I had friends who came and stayed with me when he was away. Even a 16-year-old girl came and stayed with our family, because grief really can destroy a family if you don't have enough support from others. And we saw that our kids really suffered. And kids are often the silent victims in bereaved families, because our children were 11 and 10 and 6, our other children. And you see in families like ours that the kids they protect the parents. They don't want to hurt the parents. And lots of times the parents are too destroyed to be able to take care of the kids the way they used to, and the whole family has changed. So we saw that really our kids needed help, and we decided we wanted to do something to honor Kobe and Yosef. And we decided we would make a camp for bereaved children. And that was in 2002. So the first summer we had about 150 kids at the camp. And since then, we've had 500 kids at the camp every summer. And bereaved children, they feel different when they're in the regular world because they hide who they are. Nobody knows that they have suffering inside of them. They don't show it. And in the camp, we have therapy. We have art therapy and movement and drumming and yoga and all kinds of expressive therapies, but none of the therapies is direct. And it's not a bereavement camp. It's a camp for bereaved children. So actually, it's a place where the bereaved children can leave their bereavement behind because they're just like everybody else at the camp. Whereas in ordinary life, they always feel different. In fact, one of the kids said to me, his brother, he saw his brother die in front of him. His brother was playing on playground equipment in somebody's backyard, and it fell on top of him. And the boy, the surviving brother, was 6 years old, and he was trying to lift it off of his brother, and he saw his brother die. And he told me the story, and then he looked at me and he said, "I thought I was the only one." So when you feel isolated and you feel separate and different, it's very hard to continue and to thrive. But there is a phenomenon called posttraumatic growth, that from the greatest pain and suffering can come the greatest light. And now, like yesterday, I read a study in the New York Times that talked about child soldiers from an African country, and it said that what created the trauma, the post-trauma, would be how they were accepted in the community, if they were welcomed back into the community. And the way they were embraced by the community was what distinguished or defined their trauma. And so that even the worst traumas often can be overcome if the community welcomes and embraces and supports you. So in a way, we feel that we're doing kind of holy work to be able to support so many children and families, because we also run support groups for bereaved mothers. And we've been running these groups for almost 10 years now. And like, for example, in Jerusalem, we have a group every Wednesday. And now we have psychodrama, we have dance, we have yoga, we have art therapy, and we have mosaics. And what I see, like, for example, in the mosaics, is that to make a mosaic, you have to smash things, you have to destroy, you have to break things. But then you can put things back together. And sometimes you can put things back together in a beautiful way. Also writing a book, because I'm a writer, so it helps to have a place for the pain. It helps to, it's important to create from the pain. And I felt like my life was a spiritual mystery because I didn't understand anything. And also that first year, I felt that God was sending me signs. And a lot of things happened that year that I could only understand through the realm of Torah and mysticism. So I had to do a lot of research and learning that first year. And I wrote the book about Kobe and about all the stories about his life and what kind of person he was and what it could afterwards to our family, but also about all these signs and wonders that we experience, to try to unravel them and interpret them. These are some suggestions for how to help bereaved people. First of all, I think it's very hard for most people because they feel very uncomfortable and they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing. And it's okay. It's okay to say the wrong thing. What happened to me when I was during the Shiva is that I had a lot of people say to me, I could never understand how you feel, and others who said, I totally understand how you feel. And it really didn't matter what they said because I could feel what was behind that, behind the words. And I could feel if they were afraid of me or if they had compassion. So a lot of times a grieving person, they're really reading the subtext. So sometimes they will forgive you, even if you say the wrong thing, because they feel, it's like they can feel your heart. But it is better, in general, not to say, I understand what you're feeling, or I don't understand what you're feeling, because the emphasis is really on the bereaved person and not on you. So the main thing is to let them set the tone and to let them talk. And to do that, you have to be comfortable with silence. And that's a hard thing. But the truth is that silence, in a way, is the only response to grief and death, because some experiences just supersede language. And so there are no words because words become really flimsy. And they can't contain an experience. They can't contain an experience of such depth and power. So you have to use words sparingly. Also, I really appreciated the people who just came and did things for me. They didn't say, can I do something for you? They would see the dishes needed to be done and they would just say, I'm going to do the dishes. And also, don't expect anything from a bereaved person. Like, don't expect them to call you and don't expect them to thank you. And don't ask them what you want them, what they want you to do for them, because most likely they're not going to tell you. The other thing is to stay with them for the long run, because grief continues for longer than people imagine it does. And you can always step in at any time, even if you, let's say, didn't go to the funeral or didn't go to the Shiva. Most people will still appreciate your presence, even a month later, because it also tells the family that the person who died matters and is significant, and that your loss matters. Because the most important thing to do after a death is to try to find meaning and try to find significance, and also to try to find greatness and to become larger. So if more people move into the mourner's life, in a way that enlarges their life, because it means their circle is bigger. And also, each person can take the story of the person who died and kind of pass it onward.